Hi, my name is Nur Ilya binti Muhammad Sokri with the number matric 262800. Documentary credit, also called a letter of credit, not to confuse with documentary collection. It is the most used payment technique in international trade. Document credit is a payment technique whereby a bank commits itself on behalf of its client, which is the importer, to pay to a beneficiary, which is the exporter, within a fixed period, the price of the goods, service against the delivery by the exporter of previously agreed and compliance document proving the value and shipment of the goods or the service. The documentary credit is used when the transaction amounts are very high or when one party has doubt about the morality or solvency of the others. It provides security for both the exporter and the importer. The seller, which is the exporter, receives an advance assurances of payment upon presentation of document list in the agreement, and the buyer is assured that bank will not pay unless the seller has submitted all the documents strictly complying with the documentary credit. The creditworthiness of the importer is substituted by the guarantee of the bank, usually his own bank. There exists many different types of documentary credit, and it is important to understand not only the differences between each type, but also to appreciate the circumstance in which it could be used. In this video, I will cover several types of most commonly encountered type of documentary credits. First, the commercial letter of credit. This is a standard letter of credit that's commonly used in international trade and may also be referred to as a documentary credit or an import or export letter of credit. A bank acts as a natural third party to release funds when all the conditions of the agreement have been met. Second, standby letter of credit. This type of letter of credit is different. It provides payment if something fails to happen instead of facilitating a transaction. A standby letter of credit provides compensation when something goes wrong. Standby letter of credit are very similar to commercial letter of credit, but they are only payable when the payee or the beneficiary prove that they didn't get what was promised. Standby letter of credit are like insurance that you will get paid, and they can be used to ensure that service will be performed satisfactorily. Third is the revocable and irrevocable letter of credit. In the revocable letter of credit, the issuing bank clearly states that the credit can be revoked at any time without the consent of or notice to the exporter. Once the credit is revoked, the exporter has no other way out to recover his dues. The exporter interest is not protected under this type of credit, and therefore it is not very common in international trade. Revocable credit are never confirmed. The irrevocable letter of credit, in the other hand, cannot be revoked by the issuing bank. Under irrevocable credit, the issuing bank is under an obligation to make the payment in the term of credit as satisfied. The exporter under this type of credit feels secure that the credit cannot be cancelled or revoked without the consent of or notice to all the party concerned. Okay, the fourth type is the confirmed and unconfirmed letter of credit. When a letter of credit is confirmed, another bank, presumably one that the beneficiary trusts, guarantees that the payment will be made. Exporter might not trust a bank that issues a letter of credit on behalf of the buyer because the exporter is not familiar with the bank, for example, and is not sure if payment will ever arrive, so they might require that the bank in their home country confirm the letter. If the issuing bank fails to pay and the exporter can meet all of the requirements of the letter of credit, the confirming bank will have to pay the exporter and try to collect from the issuing bank's letter. Fifth, the transferable letter of credit. It is a type of financial guarantee known as a letter of credit that additionally allows the first beneficiary to transfer some of all of the credit to another parties, which create a secondary beneficiary. The party that initially accepts the transferable letter of credit from the bank is referred to as the first or primary beneficiary. A transferable letter of credit is often used in business deals to ensure payment to the supplier or manufacturer. Sixth is back-to-back letter of credit. A back-to-back letter of credits allow intermediaries to connect buyers and seller. Two letters of credit are used so that each party get paid individually. An intermediary get paid by the buyer and the suppliers get paid by the intermediary. The final buyer and the intermediary use a master letter of credit, and the intermediary and supplier use a letter of credit based on the master letter. Seventh is the assignable and non-assignable letter of credit. Letter of credit may be assignable or non-assignable. An assignable letter of credit is one which can be assigned by the beneficiary or in whose favor it is opened to some other parties. This type of letter of credit is issued in favor of the representative of the importer or the buyer, especially when he does not know who will actually be the exporter of the merchandise. Once the representative finds a suitable person or firm exporter which is able and willing to ship the goods on the terms specified by the importer, he assigns the letter of credit to the party, which is the exporter, concerned. A non-assignable letter of credit is one which cannot be transferred to any other person by the beneficiary. Example, in whose favor which it is issued. Generally, it is opened in the name of the actual exporter or after the order is confirmed by the exporter. The last type is the red and green clause letter of credit. A red clause letter of credit is one that authorizes the exporter to avail pre-shipment finance on the strength of the credit. In this letter of credit, the clause is printed or typed in red ink, hence such letter of credit is known as a red clause letter of credit. This type of credit can provide an exporter with working capital during the buying season and while exporting processing takes. This credit is liquidated once the documents are negotiated. In a green clause letter of credit, in addition to the pre-shipment finance, storage facilities are allowed at the port of the shipment to the exporter by opening bank. Such type of clause is typed or printed in green ink, so this letter of credit is known as green clause letter of credit. Okay, there are several parties that are involved in letter of credit. First, the applicant, which is the party on whose request the credit is issued, the buyer or the importer. Second, the issuing bank, the bank that issue a credit at the request of an applicant or its own behalf. Third, the advising bank, the bank that advises the credit at the request of the issuing bank. Fourth, the confirming bank, the bank that adds its confirmation to a credit in addition to that of the issuing bank to honor or negotiate a complying presentation. Fifth, the nominated bank, the bank which the credit is available or any bank in the case it is available with any bank. Last is the beneficiary, the party in whose favor the credit is issued and normally the provider of the goods, service or performance, which is the seller or exporter.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Arifah binti Jumaat, metric number 263900. I'm going to present about the document required under documentary credit procedures and process, and the last one is opening and advising documentary credit. There are 5 documents required under documentary credit, which are commercial document, transport documents, customs or official document, financial document, and the last one is insurance document. Alright, we start with commercial document. This document required by the buyer to show evidence that he is likely to get the goods he has ordered. Commercial document consists of indent, commercial invoice, export invoice, receipt, delivery order, and pro forma invoice. Indent, a written purchase or initiated by the importer to the exporter or its agents. Detail in an indent include types and quantity of goods, estimation of the price of goods, method of payments, date and method of delivery, shipping term, labeling, and packaging. There are 2 types of indent, which is open indent and closed indent. Next is commercial invoice. It is one of the main documents prepared by the seller or exporter and delivered through its banker for presentation to the buyers or importer. Detail in an invoice include types of goods, contract number, number of packages, import license, name of beneficiaries, and values. The third one for commercial document is export invoice, generally prepared in 2 copies, which is one kept by the exporter and another one is delivered to importer together with the bill of lading. Alright, the fourth document in commercial document is receipt. It shows whether an amount owed has been settled or not. It is a confirmation by the exporter on the origin of the goods. The confirmation normally required the endorsement of the local chamber of commerce of exporter country. The document is also used by the Custom Department in determining whether to charge import duties or import quotas or etc. The last document in commercial document is pro forma invoice. It is quite similar in structure to an export invoice or commercial invoice. It is generally sent by the seller to the potential buyer to indicate details of the goods and their pricing and other charges. It serves to seek confirmation of an early purchase order made by the potential buyer through an indent. Only when the buyer places a firm order, the goods are shipped out and the relevant document will be issued and sent for collection. The pro forma invoice is often used by the importer to apply for a letter of credit, which is LC, and foreign exchange, which is for import allocation. The second document required under documentary credit is transport document. It is served as a document of title to the goods, enabling the holder to take possession of the goods. It consists of bill of lading, shipping notes, airway bills, weight notes, and delivery notes. The first transport document is a bill of lading. It is issued by or on behalf of the master of the ship to certify that goods have been received by the shipping company for transportation and delivery. It also shows terms and conditions under which the shipping company undertakes to transport the goods. It performs certain important functions such as receipt for goods under its possession, evidence of a contract of carriage, a document of title to the goods, and it may be used as a legal document in support of an insurance claim. The type of bill of lading consists of marine bill of lading, container bill of lading, seaway bills, and etc. The next transport document is airway bill, also known as air consignment notes, issued by airlines when goods are sent by air freight. Goods will be released to the consignee upon identification. The third transport document is consignment notes. Rail or road consignment notes is issued when goods are sent by rail or road haulage. It acts as receipt for the goods by the courier and as evidence of a contract of carriage. The goods are released to the consignee upon application and identification. The last transport document is postal receipt. It is issued when goods are sent by post. It acts as receipt for the goods by the carrier and evidence of a contract of carriage. The parcels are normally released to the named consignee upon identification. The third document required under documentary credit is custom or official document. It covers documents required for the government or custom purpose. It consists of consular invoice, certificate of origin, import license, and certificate of inspection. The first one is consular invoice. It is normally obtained from the office of the embassy of the importer in the country of the exporter. Its purpose is to confirm that the goods have been approved for delivery to the importer's country. This document is normally required when an importing country practices import duty based on ad valorem. Generally, prepaid in 3 copies. One is kept by the shipping agent, another one is kept by the consular office, and another copy is kept by the custom office. The second document is certificate of origin. It provides information about the country where the goods originated. It is a confirmation by the exporter on the origin of the goods. The confirmation normally requires endorsement of the local chamber of commerce of the exporter's country. It also used by the custom department in determining whether to charge import duties or import quotas or etc. To importers, it ensures that the goods are produced in the country associated with high quality. It is normally authenticated or certified by the independent body, such as a chamber of commerce in that country. The shipping mark on this certificate should be the same mark appearing on the other documents, such as invoice or bill of lading, to ensure that it comes from the same exporting country. The third one is import license. It is needed to import certain goods when a country restricts imports in general, or when a country wishes to protect a particular local industry from foreign competition. The import license is obtained by the foreign importer and sent to the exporter. The document then are presented to the consul for legalization. The last one is certificate of inspection. It is issued by independent third-party resident in the exporter's country, stating that the goods conform to a certain standard. Buyer call for this document to ensure that the seller is supplying the goods of the required quality, specification, and quantity as contracted. The example of certificate of inspection in Malaysia is SIRIM. The fourth document required under documentary credit is financial document, which is it consists of bill of exchange, letter of credit, solar bill, payment orders, and letter of hypothecation. The first one is bill of exchange. It is an agreement signed by the buyer of the goods to pay the seller a certain sum of money on a specified future date. Bill of exchange is known as negotiable instrument. Each international transaction generates its own bill of exchange. The bill is drawn by the exporter and sent to the importer. Once the importer accepts the bills and return it to the exporter, the importer is legally bound to make payment, and the bill is legal evidence of a contractual obligation for payment. The exporter can hold the bill until its maturity, transfer it to another party through endorsement, or get the bill discounted with a bank. Next is letter of credit. It is known as LC, which is undertaking given by the importer's bank, normally called issuing bank, acting upon the request of the importer that it will make payment to a beneficiary, which is the exporter. LC involves a minimum of 4 parties, which is the importer, importer bank, known as issuing bank, exporter, and advising bank. It imposes the superior creditworthiness of the importer's bank over that of the importer, and protect the exporter from credit risk and risk of non-payment. The last document required under documentary credit is insurance document, which is insurance cover notes. It is issued by insurance company, underwriters, or agents, indemnify the assured against any losses or damage to the goods arising from the transportation of the goods from one place to another. The date should be the same as or earlier than the date of the transport document. Under UCP, either of exporter or importer will have to bear the risk of loss through damage, theft, pilferage, and etc. Alright, we move to the next point, which is documentary credit procedures and process. Okay, for the export procedures, the exporter market its product via various export channel, which is direct sales, branch office, export agent, export traders, or any other channels. And then they will receive order from buyers via indent, prepare the goods or execute all requirement of the indent. They have to determine whether open indent or close indent. After that, they have to places booking for cargo spaces with airline or ship agents, prepare the necessary documents, delivery goods to the seaport or airport, transfer the goods onto the ship or aircraft, and then send bill of lading and other document to importer, and lastly receive payment from the importer. Alright, for import procedures, buyer place import order via indent. He may need to arrange for NLC with a bank if required by exporter. Also, he can use the various import channel, for example, direct purchase, branch office, import agent, import traders, and or other channels. And then receive bill of lading and other relevant document, comply to requirement of Exchange Control Act 1953. After that, the goods arrive at the port or airport. They will execute custom rules and regulation, pays imports duties unless exempted, and the last one, the importer will pay the exporter or its agent. This is the process of the documentary credit, uh, which is involve the exporter, importer, advising bank or confirming bank, and issuing bank. We move to my last part, which is opening and advising documentary credit. Okay, for the opening documentary credit, the importer asks his bank to open documentary credit whose beneficiary is the exporter. Bank usually have many forms that the importer must complete and sign to formalize their application. In some cases, an opening application letter may be sufficient. If the documentary credit can refer to the contract, it is important to note the bank is not bound by the terms of the contract. It must only follow the instruction given by the customer in the application form. After receipt of the request, the bank conduct a thorough examination of client situation. The bank may feel that the transaction is too risky and reject the request. Otherwise, it may ask the client to make an advance deposit for opening of the credit or give him a payment on his usual line of credit. And lastly, advising documentary credit. Usually when the exporter enter a sales of contract, he will appoint a bank to take reasonable care to verify the authenticity of credits received and then accurately transmit them to their beneficiaries. When advising a letter of credit, the bank assumes no other liability. On receipt of the document for examination and payment, the advising bank will pay the seller only if it has received good funds from the issuing bank, even if it was specifically named as paying bank in the letter of credit.
Hi, my name is Disnawati binti Ibrahim 261446. So in this video, I will continue explaining regarding the confirmation of the documentary credit, the forms of credit payment, and advantages and disadvantages to and risks to buyers and the sellers. So we go first to confirmation of documentary credit. What is confirmed letter of credit? Actually, the terms of confirmation of documentary credit was referred to additional guarantee, whereby a confirmed letter of credit is a letter of credit which the seller or the exporter has a payment guarantee from a second bank, which is known as confirming bank. So what is the difference between confirmed LC and unconfirmed LC? Whereby the meaning of confirmed LC, as will be mentioned before, it was a payment guaranteed by the issuing bank as well as the confirming bank, while the unconfirmed LC, it was the payment guaranteed by the issuing bank only. So for the cost of confirmed LC, it was comparatively costly as the charges of the second bank for the confirming bank also incurred, whereby for the unconfirmed LC, it was less expensive as we just only incurred of the issuing bank charges only. So the changes and correction terms for the confirmed LC, the second bank, which is the confirming bank, can suggest as changes and the corrections directly to the issuing bank. But for the unconfirmed LC, only the beneficiary, which is the exporter, can request changes to in the letter of credit via the applicant, which is the buyer. Now we go to the form of documentary credit payment. So there are four types, which is the first one is type payment. So this type of payment indicates immediate payment to the buyer after presentation of side draft, which is known as bill of exchange. So the second one is deferred payment. So in this situation, the payment is made by a buyer as a specific or determinable future date stipulated in the letter of credit or the documentary credit collection. So it is important to remember that a buyer will have a credit, collateral, cash tied up until the payment is made to the seller. So it is guaranteed to a seller just as if it were made immediately. So the third one is acceptance payment. So this payment is known as an acceptance is similar to a deferred payment, which is in this case a term or usance draft is presented together to a stipulated bank along with the other required documents. So once the document and draft are accepted, then the draft will be drawn on and payable at a future date as stipulated in the letter of credit. So the last one is negotiable payment. So when the documents are presented and reviewed by the bank, the process is referred to as a negotiation of the document. In accordance with UCP 600, a bank authorized to negotiable document or draft is authorized to give value or for the draft and the documents, which mean the letter of credit can be stipulated that payment be made by the advising, issuing, or the confirming bank. Now we have come to the last part of my explaining, which is advantages and disadvantages of documentary credit. So there are several advantages and disadvantages towards the importer and the exporter, which is the first advantages for the importer, as an importer is assured that the payment has been made to the exporter under the terms and the condition mentioned in the letter of credit. And the second one is ability to negotiate more favorable trade terms with the supplier when the payment by LC is offered. So the advantages for the exporter, which is the first one, is exporter receive the payment under all terms and conditions that are being mentioned in the letter of credit, and the second one is the shift credit risk from the importer towards the issuing bank. So the disadvantages towards the importer was the letter of credit ensure right document but not necessarily right merchandise. For the exporter, is the document get prepared in strict compliance with all the requirements specifically in LC, but non-compliance leave the exporter exposed to risk of non-payment.
Hi, my name is Zahira binti Abdul Anwar and my metric number is 264086, and I'm going to continue the presentation on the amending and negotiating a credit. Amendment of letter of credit is signifies any changes made to the term of an LC after it has been authorized. An amendment can be made at any time after the LC has been authorized and before its expiring date. There are few sections contained in amending the letter of credit, which is the first one is procedure for amending letter of credit. The second is indicating change of value. The third one is commission and charges for the amendment, and the fourth one is amendment of an unauthorized LC. For the procedure for amending LC, for each amendment, a new version of LC will be generated. Different versions of the letter of credit will be generated by events like instatement and reopening. When a customer requests for changes in the terms of the contract, the details of the letter of credit are amended accordingly and an amendment instructed is generated. The amendment of the following details of a letter of credit is: the first one is an amendment on the letter of credit amount. The second one is the amendment in the expiring date. The third one is the change in the latest shipment date, and the fourth one is any change to the free format instruction for the letter of credit. Is indicating change of value. When the letter of credit amount is being changed, the new amount of the letter of credit should be indicated after the amendment. Most amendment will be done through the system called ORAL, O-R-A-L-E, ORAL. Okay, moving on. For example, the original letter of credit amount was USD 100,000, and we want to change it to 150,000 USD. The system will calculate the increased amount and pass the appropriate entries. The letter of credit amendment instrument will have both old and new values stated there. For the commission and charges for the amendment, we can specify the commissions and charges that we want to levy for processing the amendment. It will be effective from the date of the amendment and will not affect booking commission in any way. last one is amendment of an unauthorized letter of credit. The amendment of an unauthorized letter of credit is considered as a modification. When a letter of credit that we have entered is not yet authorized, we can change all its details except the details in the header, which is the contract reference number, the product, and the type of operation. To change any detail on a letter of credit that has been stored and not authorized, delete the letter of credit and input a new one. Moving on to the next section, which is negotiating a letter of credit. The term letter of credit means the purchase by the nominated bank of draft drawn on a bank other than the nominated bank, and documents under a compliant presentation by advancing or agreeing to advance funds to the beneficiary on or before the banking day on which reimbursement is due to the nominated bank. The benefit of a negotiating letter of credit is that the exporters can reach the payment sooner with negotiable letter of credit, which offering issuance terms to the importers. With the help of the negotiable letter of credit, exporters can balance their cash flows and able to propose competitive payment terms to the importers. So, the negotiation fees generally covered by the exporters, although this is contrary to the letter of credit rules. Lastly is the transaction flow for a negotiable letter of credit. For the first step, the exporter and the importer enter into a sales contract by agreeing on the terms and conditions of the business transaction. Next, the second step, the importer contacts to the issuing bank for the issuance of the negotiable letter of credit. Then, the issuing bank issues negotiable letter of credit in SWIFT format and sends it to the nominated bank, who is also negotiating bank and advising bank. Negotiating bank will advise the letter of credit to the exporter. The exporter will check the letter of credit condition. If they accept it, he will start the production of the goods. Next, step number 5, the exporter will ship the goods within the validity of the letter of credit and not later than the latest date of shipment indicated in the letter of credit. Next is the exporter presents the documents to the negotiating bank within the presentation period allowed under the letter of credit. Remember, if presented documents contain transport document, presentation must be completed within 21 days after the date of shipment. The next step, which is the step 7, negotiating bank checks the documents presented by the exporter, and if determines that they are compliant, advance cash to the exporter. The negotiation is effectively the purchase of documents from the exporter at a discount. Next, negotiating bank presents the documents to the issuing bank. And lastly, step number 9, the issuing bank checks the document and if compliant, accept them to be paid to the negotiating bank at the maturity. At the same time, issuing bank gets in touch with the importer and delivers documents to him according to the financial agreement between the issuing bank and the importer. So that's all from our group. Thank you for watching.